the fact of the matter is that every leader needs to grow in three dimensions. They need to grow in their knowledge of the problem domain. They need to grow in the dimension of understanding themselves and their motivations to lead and kind of what drives them to be a good leader. And then the third thing we found, and this is the piece that we really picked up on, that then there's the skills, the tasks, practices, and responsibilities of leading. So what does that mean?
Succinct building blocks to not only lead well, but also build a team, process, rhythms, all those things.
We hope that leaders pick that up by osmosis or maybe working for a good leader, and so they continue to do that. But we wanted to teach them specifically a body of knowledge of what leaders do, what is the work.
This episode is part of our summit series, and we're talking with some of our speakers who will be at the Lean Solutions Summit on September 15th, 16th, and 17th coming up here. And it's going to be an amazing summit, beautiful venue, lots of great speakers like yourselves. And we're doing the summit series to kind of give a little taste to everyone about what they can expect at the summit itself. So what are some of the topics? Who are the speakers? Just being able to meet and talk with everyone just to get a feel for what they can expect at the summit this year. So Paul is from LeaderWork, also here in West Michigan, and then Shawna is from Disher, which also what happens to be one of our keynotes is the president of Disher. So we can talk maybe a little bit about that as well. But why don't we start out briefly and just let everybody know a little bit about you guys. So Paul, you and I have crossed paths quite a bit over the years, and I'm excited. This will be the first time that you are attending the Lean Solutions Summit and as a speaker. So I'm really excited because I remember the first time I think we crossed paths, I was working with a company and I believe you were also there in leadership at the time, and you were doing some amazing things from a strategic planning standpoint. I remember seeing the work that you were doing there, and I was like amazed by some of the things that you were doing with that team. So, Paul, do you mind just giving our listeners just a quick intro into who you are and a little bit about your extensive background in leadership?
Yeah, happy to, and I'm glad to be here, Patrick. Thanks for inviting me in. I spent about a 35-year career in Tier 1 automotive here in West Michigan. I worked at a company that doesn't exist anymore called Donnelly Corporation in the beginning. They were bought by Magna. And there I was responsible for actually strategic planning and executive talent development. I went from there to GHSP up in Grand Haven, where I had a great run there. Wonderful company, great products, super lean enterprise that was led by Jeff Smith. It was really, really well done. I had the chance to serve there as CEO for the last 7 years of my time there. And then I went from there to Coastal Group, which was a series of companies, including Coastal Automotive and Coastal Container. And Patrick, that's where our paths crossed. You came in to work with Toby Curry at Coastal Automotive.
Yeah.
And similarly, I was equally impressed with kind of the approach you took to Lean, which wasn't just there's a whole bunch of tools here, but there's a system that begins with people and ends with excellence. And so ever since then, I've been a fan of the work you guys are doing, and I'm happy to be part of this summit.
Well, I appreciate that, Paul. I'm overly excited. I'm looking forward to sitting in on your presentation and gleaning some really, really good insights. So we'll dive a little bit more into that. But the title of your presentation is "The Work of the Leader." So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more on that. But Shawna, let's go to you. So you are currently with Disher. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then also maybe just a little bit about Disher, just so people can get a good understanding of the two?
Yeah. So Disher is one company with really 3 brands under them. So I have the privilege of leading our talent brand. So we partner with organizations and help them with their recruiting needs. And really going back to what you mentioned earlier, the people aspect of an organization. So obviously you need the people to make the organization. And so we really focus in at the beginning stage of making sure we're finding you the top talent that you need to be successful, to continue to grow and develop and get where you want to go. So that's what I have the privilege of doing. I get to lead a great team. And then Disher as a whole, we have 3 brands, like I said, engineering, talent, and leading by design. So a great group of engineers that will come in and help with engineering projects. And then a leadership group that really focuses in on leadership development, more on like the soft side, where it's focused on values and having good conversations and really coaching that people aspect of your organization.
Love it. And Shawna, a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I've been with Disher now for like 12 years, which is crazy. But I went to Hope College, I had an internship at Disher, which is how I came to Disher. Left for a little bit, but then had the ability to come back and have been there since. So my background's in management and communication. Like most people in recruiting, kind of just fell into it and found the sweet spot for me. And yeah, have been there ever since.
Love it. Well, Disher is doing some amazing work, not just here in West Michigan, but all over the United States. And I know that you guys are doing some really great stuff when it comes to talent acquisition. And you're going to be speaking on talent acquisition strategies using AI. So this will fit perfectly with our theme of better together, people plus innovation. And just actually with both of you, Paul and Shawna both, your presentations are going to fit really great into that theme, and I'm looking forward to that. And Shawna, you also have one of our keynotes is from Disher, Joe Dyer.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about Joe. He's an amazing guy, isn't he?
He is. He's great. Yeah, he leads our organization. He's definitely a person worth following. Yeah, and so I have the privilege of being able to work with him, and he came in a few years ago, took over for Jeff Disher, who started Disher, and now he's been leading us and growing us and developing us and kind of taking Disher 2.0 and taking us to the next level.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, he's great. I worked with Joe years and years ago in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So it's been a while, but I'm looking forward to seeing him again. Okay, let's go back to Paul. So, well, actually, before we do that, real quick, we have a number of people that have joined us online, watching live, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more that'll be watching the playback. So I just want to let everybody know, my name is Patrick Adams, and I'm here with Paul Doyle and Shawna Hondorp, and we are talking about the Lean Solutions Summit coming up September 15th, 16th, and 17th. Specifically, what we're doing is a little intro into a couple of our speakers, and then just kind of scratching the surface on the topics that our presenters will be talking about at the summit this year, in hopes that you all will come and see in person, meet the speakers, and hear from some of these amazing speakers based on their experiences. You won't want to miss this year at the Gardens here in Grand Rapids. It's going to be a beautiful venue with just a great event overall. So Paul, let's go back to your topic. Your topic is the work of the leader. Tell us just a little, without giving away too much, tell us just a little bit about the kind of the description of your presentation. What can people expect when they sit in on your presentation around the work of the leader?
Well, I can tell it best by telling kind of the story of where it came from. When I was asked to serve as CEO at GHSP, we were about 93 million in sales, and about 7 years later, we were 430 million in sales. And one of the observations that happened with the leadership team very early on is we recognized that through some real cool product innovation that we were the dog that caught the bus, and we were going to scale fast. And what we realized was that if we weren't able to develop leaders at all levels of the organization, our ability to scale would not return the kind of returns we hoped they would. And so we made a really interesting decision one night in a planning session that we were going to need to develop leaders, but we weren't going to think about it as simply a training program that we needed to kind of give people skills. We decided to approach it as a business process, the same way you would have a quality system or an operating system or a launch system, things like that. And so the idea, if you got a quality system, well, that begins with knowing what the dimensions of the part need to be, and then you test them, validate them, measure them, and you watch parts and you sample things and you look for variances, and you eliminate variances. Well, the same mentality we took to leaders. And so rather than talking about just simply kind of what's your Myers-Briggs and things like that, or how do you fire people without pissing them off and things like that, we decided to look at what does the leader really do? What is the work? And then we decided to approach it as a business process. So we identified very specific behaviors of leaders, the ones that were, if you do more of this, you will be more successful. We measured it, we set standards for it, we recruited for it, we trained on the dimensions once we identified them as behaviors and not as concepts or theories. We wound up identifying about 90 specific behaviors that if leaders did these things, they more often generated successful results than others. So we built a standard, and we went through the whole PDCA process on it, saying every year we're going to set new goals, we're going to measure every quarter. There's a development plan that's required from every leader. And so we approached the leader development program, not as a theory, but as a business process that was managed and controlled. That's the essence of, I think that's what made us be successful, is we build leaders at every level by having a standard.
I love it. And I've been to your office, Paul, and I love the visuals that you guys have that represent all of those different behaviors, because you're now working with organizations where you're coaching their leaders in those various behaviors. And I think what you're doing is amazing. And the way that you structured it, I think, is worth sharing. And so it sounds like that's kind of what you're going to be diving into during your presentation. What are those behaviors, and how can you apply them at your organization to get the results that you're looking for? Is that accurate?
It's very accurate. And, since I left kind of the industry as kind of day job, kind of what we started leader work as a passion project. And there's a number of people working there who have been, they've had their swing at the pitch, and now it's time to kind of give back. So we put together leader work to help people learn the same lessons that we learned. The idea of what we do in the program here is very much about very specific tactical. It's not complicated to tell people a behavior, because it doesn't have a lot of theory behind it. If you say, listen, you need to plan and schedule work well, exactly what does it mean to plan and schedule work well? And so we can teach them those practices and skills. So that's kind of what happens in the program that we've put together. In the session, what I hope to kind of show people is a combination of things. When you think about leadership as a process, how is that different than leadership as a training program? How do you build it into your management practices so you can set goals for it and improve it and measure it and things like that? But then give a very clear list of, here's the kind of things we talk about. There are 12 elements that we've kind of grouped it into, and we'll walk through each one of those and give people plenty of time to wrestle with the specific tasks.
Oh, I love it. So, Paul, I'm gonna go to Shawna with a question here, but I want to come back to you and see if would you be willing to share with us one of those behaviors?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. So hold that thought. Let's go to Shawna real quick. So, Shawna, tell us a little bit more about your topic around enhancing your talent acquisition strategy using AI. What is it that listener or attendees can glean from your presentation when they're sitting in on September 15th, 16th, and 17th?
Yeah, well, real quick. So if I can give a quick plug for Paul's session. I had the privilege of going through leader work, and it was life-changing.
I didn't even know that. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I didn't even know that when we scheduled. This is perfect.
Yes.
Look at this. All right, go ahead.
So if you need, it's fine. But if you want succinct building blocks to not only lead well, but also build a team, process, rhythms, all those things. I don't know what, just a snapshot of what Paul's going to do is well worth it to come. And then I can't speak enough about leader work and just the impact it's had on me. So I'm excited to go to that session in September. I can always use a refresh. Yes.
Love it.
And then my session, obviously AI is everywhere. You can't escape it. It's here. So really, we go into the people aspect of it and talk about recruiting and HR, but also just setting a good strategy for AI within your organization while also having the human a part of it. I think we've all seen the headlines where it's we fired all these people because of AI and all those things, but there's a bigger story going on, and it's really how AI can complement your workflows and just the things that you need to do as an organization to set yourself up well. And so we'll go into just AI with HR. Things to keep in mind. We're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about compliance, some of the things that people don't really talk about, and then some applications that you can use as part of your recruiting process.
Love it. So anyone that's in attendance is going to walk away with some tools, not only for listening, but some physical tools. Is that what you're saying that they can actually use?
Yes. And also too, just we'll show our timeline at Disher and how we've kind of been going on our AI journey. I think it's always helpful to see an actual example because it can be out here and you're like, how do I bring that here? So we'll talk about our journey a little bit, and we're still on this journey. It's going to be a long journey. It's not something that's an overnight, you can just implement any AI tool and you're off and running, but really it's what journey are you going to be on? And what things do you need to think about as you go on that journey?
Gotcha. Shawna, what's been one of the challenges that you've come across as you've kind of, been on this AI journey with everyone else in the world right now? What's one of the biggest challenges when it comes to talent acquisition and leveraging AI, or maybe it's just a challenge with talent acquisition that AI is helping with? Just what challenge would you say just kind of comes to mind?
I think a lot of people think AI is being used more in the recruiting process than it actually is. Now, there's some things with that, but I think we're starting to get into this issue of every applicant is trying to match their resume to fit the job posting to get through the ATS so that they can get an interview with a human. And the end goal is to get that interview with a human. And really what I've seen is not many. I think there's an impression that more organizations are using AI than they actually are. But really, it's how do you create that transparency within the recruiting process so it's less about, let me just get the keywords to match, and more about competencies and skill sets and bringing in the right talent. So I think that's a big challenge, is just what's the truth and what's going on with AI and where can we just show up authentically. And I think if more companies just shared how they're using AI within their recruiting process, it would eliminate a lot of those question marks. And you would get a lot less junk in the system, and you can focus on finding the real people that want to be at your organization.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. I literally just had a conversation with someone that said that they were struggling to get an interview, and they blamed the AI bots or whoever it is that's cycling through. They said they cannot figure out how to get past that. So you're saying that maybe they're putting too much attention on that potentially, and they just need to focus on their core strengths and just let the system work through that. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, and I would also add too, I think a lot of what we lost in recruiting in the past is just that networking, that human connection. And I think more of that will be coming back of using your network, using those connections that you've made in the past to help you find the right opportunity. I think we've lost some of that, but really I think a lot of that will be coming back with AI, because people want to know they're talking to a real human on both sides, whether it's the company or the individual. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot more networking and that human to human interaction as this plays out more. But I think from a company standpoint, just be transparent about your process. Where are you using it? Where are you not using it? For us and the team here, I'm pretty clear, like we're not using AI for our phone screens. Mostly because I'm really concerned about privacy, and just a lot of these companies are startups. So it's a race to the bottom and selling, and then you don't know what's going to happen with that data. So for us, it's really like, here's where we're going to use it. Here's where we're not going to use it. and just being fully transparent and having that human piece throughout the whole process to build that trust. So there's a lot going on with it. It depends on the organization you're a part of, but
Sure.
I think overall, if you can be transparent about how you're using it, you're going to have a lot more success in finding those authentic people, that top talent that you want in your organization.
Perfect. I do have a follow-up question. We're going to come back to that. I want to get back over to Paul here. He's been chomping at the bit to answer my question, I know. Paul, what would you say? Give us. So you have lots of very specific behaviors that you've identified through LeaderWorks and all the studies that you guys have done that say these are the behaviors that your leaders should be displaying in their organizations, and then how do we develop those behaviors internally? And I'll be honest with you, a lot of companies that I go into, there's a lot of people that have been promoted into leadership positions because they were really good at running a piece of equipment or really good at doing whatever the job was that they were in, but they haven't had any development or experience in leading people. And so I think this is so imperative that we help develop. Organizations are helping to develop the right behaviors within their leaders, so that those leaders don't pick up the wrong behaviors. So I think what you're going to be sharing with us at the summit this year is so important. But can you give us just one of those behaviors that you think is important that leaders are adopting and developing within organizations?
Yeah, but let me first do the Mutual Admiration Society for Disher and Shawna.
Nice.
One of the things that you need to appreciate about Disher is that oftentimes recruiters are like used car salesmen, right? They'll just find you something that hopes it gets you down the road. I've worked with Disher for a long period of time, and they're known as one of the top 10. They've been awarded awards of being one of the top 10 companies to work for in America, right? So there's a culture and there's a depth that goes with them that's a lot more than just trying to help you find the right person. Their mission is to make a positive difference, right? So they're not just trying to fill a role; they're trying to do that. I've worked with Shawna and her team on several placements in the companies that I've led, and it's the partnering part that matters. It's not just the people that they find, but everything she said about the human touch and things. That's Disher and Shawna's team in spades. So I'll check the box. And
thanks, Paul. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. I have enjoyed working with your team.
Well, and our team has actually been to Disher and done the culture tour, and I know a number of individuals that work at Disher, and what an amazing culture and difference that they're making in the communities here in West Michigan. So I'll echo that as well, Paul.
Yeah. And now let me get back to your bigger question. You brought up two things I'd like to comment on. One is the idea that people get promoted out of really understanding what we call the problem domain. I'm a great engineer, so I'm going to make a great engineering leader. That's never the case, right? The fact of the matter is that every leader needs to grow in three dimensions. They need to grow in their knowledge of the problem domain. They need to grow in the dimension of understanding themselves and their motivations to lead and kind of what drives them to be a good leader. And then the third thing we found, and this is the piece that we really picked up on at GHSP when I was there, is that then there's the skills, the tasks, practices, and responsibilities of leading. So what does that mean? And because, we hope that leaders pick that up by osmosis or maybe working for a good leader, and so they continue to do that. But we wanted to teach them specifically a body of knowledge of what leaders do, what is the work of leading. And so we broke it down into 12 elements, which was kind of just, we collected that by experience, kind of putting things together. But one of the groupings, for example, was called organize, which fits right into your lean world, Patrick, because the idea when you come to work, it's the responsibility of the leader to have everything ready and prepared so that people can come in and be productive, right? And so if you don't have the tools, you don't have the equipment, you don't have the materials, you don't have the information, then you're going to stumble around and there's going to be incredible waste if you don't have things organized for people. One of the behaviors inside of organize is this idea that people really need to understand how their work is broken down. So one of the things that we teach them is, do you have a good process map for the work that your team does? Do you understand it? Can you map your processes? But then the next step is it documented and controlled? And can you tell people the major steps, key points, and reasons why, so that you're pulling tribal knowledge out of people's heads and documenting it for training and development purposes? At a very practical skill, but those are things that you may pick up by observation, but a young leader may not know why somebody does that, or they may not understand why you do standard jobs or standard work and job breakdown analysis. So that's the kind of stuff we teach them. This is the very practical kind of, Shawna used the term building blocks, and I think that's a good term. Because there's just so many things that a leader is expected to do. Yes, I'm supposed to organize work. Well, does that mean writing documents and writing standards? Yes, it does. So here's how you do that. So it's that kind of practical stuff that I think at least we have focused on. But all three of those domains are critically important. You've got to know the subject matter. You've got to know who you are as a leader, and then you've got to know the task, practices, and responsibilities of leading. And that's the piece that we learned about at GHSP, and I think that's what we're trying to share now with the people in our programs.
I love that everything that you guys have built and you coach on was based out of real experiences that you or your leaders in at LeaderWorks have had, and I think that's the key for so many people out there, to be able to be taught and coached from people that have the real experience, right? Not just book knowledge, or not just I studied that stuff really well, or whatever it might be, but you actually are coming with real stories of real experiences that you've had and your team has had. And I think I appreciate that so much. If you're just kind of going out to our listeners here, if you're just logging on, we are in the process of just our summit series, which is we're preparing for the Lean Solutions Summit coming up here in West Michigan at Meyer Gardens, and it'll be September 15th, 16th, and 17th. The theme of this year's summit is Better Together, People Plus Innovation. And so this summit series, we're hosting some live broadcasts like this one, also podcast episodes, and we're talking with the speakers, and it just kind of scratching the surface on some of the topics that they'll be talking about. So if you are logging on, drop in the comments and let us know where in the world you're listening to this from. If you're watching the replay, throw hashtag replay in. We always like to know who's watching the replay versus the live. And then last thing is, if you have a question for anyone, drop that in the comments as well, and we'll throw that up. We just have a few more minutes here, just a couple more questions. So one more question for you, Paul, and then I'm going to go back to Shawna. Paul, for those that are listening in, a lot of your experience is in the manufacturing space. Your session, is that only for people in the manufacturing space? Is it only for managers or executive leaders, or who would best fit your presentation?
That's a great question. And obviously it was the origins of this were a manufacturing company in Grand Haven, right? But what we've learned is that the practices are such that they are not unique to manufacturing. We've had pastors of churches, we've had not-for-profits, we've had service sectors, we've had hospitals. So we've had all different kind of groups thing. And by going through that, we've had about 2,100 people go through our program at this point, and it represents a whole scope of things. We've also had about 20% of our people have been C-suite, about 25% have been frontline leaders, and the rest have been mid-levels. And what we've also learned is that even you take the question around organize that I talked about, it's equally important that you have standard work for a strategic planning session at the top of an organization, as it is for how you would do preventative maintenance on a cell, as well as how you would develop a project in a service organization or prepare a sermon for a church, right? There's things about the work that are not unique to a level, they're not unique to an industry. This is the work of leading. Right. And so when you get in the class and you're kind of working it through, you uniquely apply it to your content. But it's been fascinating to learn that these things scale according to the content of what you're leading, and they are not unique to manufacturing.
I love it. I love it. I'm hoping that to come out of your session, all of us as leaders, organize thinking about the ones that skill or behavior that you brought up. We carry leader standard work with us, or we have some form of a way that we organize our behaviors, or that we hold ourselves accountable to those behaviors. And I'm hoping to walk away from your session with a couple of new nuggets that I can add to my personal leader standard work and apply those behaviors, as I'm out and about and working with my own team here. So thank you for sharing that. I see Gershon from Johannesburg is on. So hello. Again, if you're just logging on, drop where you are in the world in the comments, and we'd love to say hello to you. Shawna, same kind of question to you. I'm curious, as you were kind of explaining the topic that you're going to be talking on, I was thinking to myself, probably if I was the director of HR or an HR manager at a company, this would be very helpful for me. But I was also thinking, like, if I'm looking for a job, that this would be helpful for me in that way too. So I'm just curious, like, can you kind of break down like who, understanding talent acquisition with using AI, who would this best affect, and in what way? How is it going to affect them?
I would say anyone that's involved with their AI strategy at their workplace could benefit from this in some way. We're going to be, a lot of it's around HR and talent, but to some degree, we're all part of the recruiting process when we're interviewing people. So I think anyone could come and get some nugget from it. But definitely the HR professionals, anyone that's part of an AI strategy within their workplace, because we're going to go into some of the things that we need to keep in mind as we develop our strategies. And you really need to figure out as an organization who you're going to be with AI and how you're going to use it and how you're not going to use it. And that's for every organization. Every organization is going to be different. It's not a one size fits all approach. So I would say, yeah, those would be the two big groups that I would attract and probably say this is the one for you.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's nice to know. And I think, again, for anyone that's listening in, I think for both of your presentations, it doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter the position. They're going to walk away with some very high value add content, and they're going to be able to apply that right away when they get back to their organization. And so I appreciate the fact that both of you are going to be at the summit this year, presenting on these materials and available for conversations. It's one of the things that I love about the Lean Solutions Summit every year is the networking that happens, not just in the conference, but we set up intentional activities at the hotel, afterwards in the evenings for some team building activities. In fact, this year we're having a concert. We're going to be actually partaking in a music concert, and I can't remember if I mentioned who the singer was yet, but I'm gonna hold that. I'm not going to tell. I'm going to keep that quiet. But there's going to be a concert in the evening with appetizers and drinks. There's morning breakfast. There's tons of opportunity to just rub shoulders and ask questions. And it's always fun to be around leaders like you that can share from different experiences and again, different industries that we've all worked in. So last question here for both of you. Paul, I'll start with you. What would you say for those that are considering attending the summit? What would you say would be one takeaway from your presentation that you would like people to walk away with? If they walked out of the summit and said, that's all I needed, that was the check in the box for me, what would be the one thing that you would want them to walk away with from your session?
Yeah, leader development is not a training program; it's a business process.
I like it. And I love the system talk that you use. If we think about things as processes or systems, that changes it a bit for us. Yeah. And so I'm excited to hear how you guys have developed those behaviors into an actual leadership system. And Shawna, what about you? What would be the one thing that you want people to walk away and say, this is what I took away from that session? What would the aha moment from your session be?
If you want AI to work well, it's not just implement a tool and call it good. There's a lot of intentionality that needs to happen behind it. And you need to be mindful of how you're going to use it and how you're not going to use it and what that means for your organization.
Love it. Intentional. That's a good word to come out of that. Be intentional. Stop just letting it happen by chance, right? Be intentional about choosing the path that you're on. I love it. So one other thing real quick, if anyone wants more information about the summit, you can go to leansolutionssummit.com and you can find more information. When you register for the summit, if you use the either Paul 100 or Shawna 100, you'll get a discount off your ticket. So we'll have to see who resonated better with everyone that's listening in today, whether it was Paul or Shawna, and how many registrations come in under each of you. But Paul 100 will give you a discount. Shawna 100 will give you a discount. Maybe try both of them, see which one gives you the bigger discount. That might be the way to go.
Definitely going to be Shawna.
There you go. I was like, if I had known it was a competition, I would have tried a little bit more in recruiting some people.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, Paul and Shawna, it's been great. Thank you both for being on for this session of the Summit series as we prepare and move closer to the Summit this year. I appreciate both of you being on, just sharing a little bit about your backgrounds and about the topics that you'll be speaking on. I'm sure even out of this session that there are people that are walking away with some really, really good stuff that they're going to be able to apply. And if they come to the Summit, it's going to get even deeper. So thank you both very much for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.